Good morning. I see some participants trickling in.
That's great.
Welcome. All right, it is the top of the hour, so we will get started. Welcome to our webinar today, Innovative and Career-Ready Tools for Intro Accounting with John Wild and Jonathan Wild. We're happy to have you. Please use the chat box to tell us where you're joining from. And we'd also ask that you let us know what topic and technologies you're most interested in learning about during the session. Please make sure you chat with everyone and not just the hosts and panelists. But if you do have a specific question, go ahead and use the Q&A and one of us will answer your question. And then if you need any help, you can reach out to me. I'm Lindsay, the marketing manager for the Wild series. So I do want to introduce everyone on the call. We have John Wild from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has received several teaching awards and is a past KPMG National Fellow. John focuses on teaching introductory financial and managerial accounting courses. He has published several books, including Fundamental Accounting Principles, Financial Accounting, and Managerial Accounting. Again, I'm Lindsay. I'm the marketing manager for the Wild series. Steve Schutz, our executive portfolio manager, is also on the call today. And then we have Jonathan Wild, who teaches at University of Wisconsin Parkside. Jonathan earned his PhD at Oklahoma State University and previously worked at PwC and Assurance Services as a CPA. Jonathan teaches courses in financial accounting, managerial accounting, and intermediate accounting, and is recognized for his many innovative teaching resources. So next, we'll talk about the textbooks that John publishes. So John and Jonathan will be showing materials they use in class from both the accounting principles and the financial and managerial texts. The principles text starts with proprietorships, which involve owner's capital and withdrawal accounts. Both financial and managerial accounting are covered in accounting principles. The financial and managerial accounting texts begin with corporations, which involve common stock and dividend accounts. The financial and managerial combo books can also be split and used as separate financial accounting text or a separate managerial accounting text. And now I'll pass it on to John.
Terrific. Lindsay asked us to talk about the innovative things we're doing in our classroom the last few years, right up to the present, and what we'll be doing in the next 6 months or a year, or at least we hope to be doing. We split those up in our discussion today into textual things that we're doing with our classroom materials. We're talking about some visual developments that we're doing in our classroom, some video enhancements, some Excel enhancements, in particular how it's integrated into our course, and then we'll have a couple loose ends at the back end. So I'm going to jump right in. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the Q&A part, and we'll get to them over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. So we'll begin with the textual innovations, and I want to start with a poll question, and Lindsay will capture that. And the question is, do many of your introductory accounting students find textual content challenging? If it's yes, click A. If it's no, click B. And if Lindsay, you give us the percent breakdown when you have that, that'd be terrific.
Yes, we've got about 35% participated, so we'll give a couple more seconds to answer that question.
Okay.
I will end the poll and share the results. So
all right,
yeah.
91%. So you have this similar experience that I do with my students. So in terms of innovations in the textual content, we look to learning science to guide us with our classroom materials. And I want to identify 2 lines of research. We won't have time to delve into those very much, but in the education arena, we oftentimes hear of this learning pyramid. In essence, all it says to us, which is very important though, it says anytime we get a chance to use audio visual aids, demonstrations, practice by doing, having students present, that's advantageous to students' learning retention. On the design front of how to design content for students' assimilation, we see 3 big items here. They talk about taking the content and blocking it. And that blocked content should be organized by takeaways. And I'll give an example in a moment. Now, within each of those blocked content chunks, we are asked to present that content in a direct, concise, systematic manner. Direct meaning cut to the chase, concise meaning succinct, and systematic exactly as it's defined. At the end of each block, that research tells us that we should include a demonstration. We call it the need to know demonstration, or an acronym NTK. And again, I'll illustrate these in a moment. And then finally, for a student retention, we want to reinforce that learning. And I'll give a couple examples of how we do that in the classroom currently. So in terms of preview, the textual innovation, again, recall what we're going to do is we're going to have block content. Within that block, we're going to have direct, concise, systematic presentation, and then we're going to have reinforcement at the end. So kind of remember that as a mnemonic device as we move forward. In terms of the content now, remember block content to enable students to search. That's the way they learn today. They've been conditioned through the internet and Google searching routines and so on. In this particular classroom materials, we cover recording transactions, and you'll notice we identified 4 different takeaways that are blocked here. And if we take something like recording transactions, you'll know within each of the block, we have 1 or more learning objectives. And furthermore, if we look down here in the block content, all of that content is presented in a direct, concise, systematic manner, again, following learning science. If you'll also get a chance to see, there's that demonstration at the end of each learning objective or at the end of each block. Again, the analogy is if something breaks around our home, we're going to the internet to try to find something. And the best of all worlds, if we can have a demonstration of how to fix it or repair something. So that's our block content. I'm going to give you examples of each of those direct and systematic applications in actually our classroom material. So starting with direct, we have a paragraph in our last edition of classroom materials. And we said, that's a little text heavy. Direct says cut to the chase. So we took that and we organized it into 5 bullet points, along with introducing visuals. Again, you'll hear us talking about visuals quite a bit based on research that helps students learn. So that's an application of direct in our content. And we do this page after page, chapter after chapter in our materials. Here's an example of conciseness. This has to do with net present value calculations. We had an 8-year example. And applying conciseness, we said, what's the shortest period of time in which it captures all the concepts that we want to communicate to students? And it turns out that we really only needed 3 years of data, which makes that material much more manageable, much more digestible, much easier to assimilate by the students. And you'll also see that in the visual too. This graphic is much more easily assimilated compared to the one over here with 8. One byproduct, we know direct and concise is the same content yields the same or enhanced learning. That's the whole idea behind it. But one byproduct was more efficiency in learning. In fact, we found that about 20% of our classroom materials was chopped off, even though we covered the same content. So great use of efficiency and helping students learn the material. The last one we talked about that we have to illustrate is systematic. This one here has to do with factory overhead budgeting. This is the content we used in our last edition for our classroom. And this is the content now. We had an opportunity because we said there's 3 steps. We have the variable, we have the fixed, and we have the total. Well, we could simply take the same table, identify variable with number 1, 2, and 3, the total, and then link that with the textual content. And that's what we did in this particular case. Again, an application of systematic. all in the interest of enhancing student learning. So the last item, thinking of that process, is the reinforcement element. Reinforcement, twofold. We have our need to know demonstration, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. We also have what we call summary cheat sheets, right? And those summary cheat sheets are organized by the takeaways for each chapter. Now, this particular chapter for our classroom, we had 4 takeaways. We had merchandising activities, merchandising purchases. What's not shown is we had merchandising sales and merchandise reporting. Now, historically, we would have presented that to our classroom over here on the left. Text heavy, organized by learning objectives. Research tells us that's not the way to proceed. Rather, research tells us we should introduce flow charts, color, tabular displays, graphics, and that's what we've done here in the 2 blocks you see here. We contrast service companies with merchandising. We show the flow of goods to the system. We have some key definitions. We have 4 key journal entries that students need to see. And then we have transaction along with ownership rules, meaning FOB, shipping point, and destination, who's legally responsible for that. So much different and very successful approach to reinforce the learning of our students. And again, to capture all that, again, block the content by takeaways, think about direct, concise, systematic, and reinforcement. A quick question before we move on is, do you feel your students could benefit from these learning science advancements along with summary cheat sheets? If you feel yes, if you would, click A. If no, click B, and let's see how you feel at this point. So 100%. Well, terrific. I'm thrilled. Okay, visual innovation. The second of 4 big items. In terms of the visual innovation, we oftentimes think of data analytics today because we think of the data wrangling part, and we also think of the visualization part. The visualization being the graphical representation of those analytics to make important decisions, the critical thinking aspects of data analytics. And we were, in our research and searching the research, we were supported by executives who identify, what are the tools they're looking for from our students in terms of analytics. They were looking for skills in working with and interpreting and dashboards, visualization, and reports. These are still important, right? All the data wrangling elements, the mining, ETL, OLAP, and so on. But clearly the critical thinking parts of data analytics was much more valued by executives. Well, we also look to learning science, and there's loads of research, fundamentally very interesting. I just point to 3 results here in terms of our brains processing visuals so much faster, in terms of infographics more likely to be read, and how information today is transmitted, or most of it, through visual means. So let's jump in, and now we're going to create for our classroom dashboard activities so students can hone those visual skills as they would apply in practice. And what we came up with was a wish list, and that wish list was 4-fold. We preferred to not have an add-on project, not because we don't like them, but because our class is really full. We have no analytics training required based on the student. This is the first course in either financial or managerial. We have no software required as part of our wish list, and we want it to be auto-graded. And what we realize is so much of our content in the classroom, so much of the assignments that we give our students look sort of like this. We have loads of tables, and oftentimes the details of the problem itself, the textual part, is loaded with numerics. And we realize that all that information that's being communicated could be communicated through dashboards. And we could still ask the same question. And this enables our students to be able to read dashboards, be able to interpret them, to apply them. And what we did from there is we started creating different assignments, and we created what we call 3 levels. We created what's known as quick studies, which are about 5 minutes in length, which are primarily focused on the student's ability to correctly read dashboards. We focused on students' ability and exercises to apply them. And we focused on mini cases, which involve interpreting and decision-making. Now, Jonathan's going to jump in and show you the actual application of these dashboards, namely in terms of activities and then projects. So Jonathan, I'm going to stop sharing, and you should be able to open it up.
Yeah, thanks. So what I want to do is I want to jump right into my Connect course and show you how I have begun at least how my course has evolved over the last couple of years. And how it's evolved is I've been taking out traditional Connect assignments and swapping them with Tableau dashboard activities that cover the same thing. So here's an example of a traditional assignment. Students are asked to apply the accounting equation. Now, in this assignment, students are given a paragraph of information, and they're given assets equal to 700,000, equity equal to 420,000, and we're asking them to solve for liabilities. So probably an assignment all of us assign again in like the first week of our class. Now what I did is I've taken out that assignment and swapped it with a Tableau dashboard activity that's also going to assess their knowledge of the accounting equation. So before we get into the accounting side of this Tableau dashboard activity, let me just quickly explain to you how these dashboards work. So this is live Tableau running right in my web browser. I don't even have Tableau installed on my computer. I don't need any kind of subscription to Tableau or anything like that. I don't have any kind of special hardware. I run a Mac. My students run PCs and Chromebooks. If they can open up Connect, if they can open up the web, they can immediately start working with these dashboards. So take away all those technological headaches. Now on how these dashboards work is all you have to do is take your cursor and start hovering over different parts of the dashboard. And these things just come to life and they start conveying financial information to our students. So now let's see what we want to do with the accounting side of this. So for the first requirement, we're going to ask our students to use the accounting equation data and compute the missing amounts. So there's 3 companies in this dashboard, and let's just focus in on one company, Nero's company. And for Nero's, we see they report liabilities of 36,000, equity of 74,000, and we're going to ask them to solve for assets. Okay, same kind of accounting question that I used to have in my class is now in the form of a dashboard. So let's go down here and let's solve this question. So we had from the dashboard, we found that liabilities were 36,000, equity was 74,000. And if students were hopefully listening to my class, right? If they were watching the videos, hopefully reading the book, they'll know they need to take liabilities, add it to equity to get total assets. So if they add those 2 numbers together, that would give them 110,000. Okay. Now, something I turn on for my students for those assignments that are more, I'd say, practice in nature, I'll turn on Check My Work. And what Check My Work does is it gives the student some quick feedback that, hey, they got a few green check marks, let them know they're on the right path. It also tells them, though, here that the answer is not yet complete because I have a few more cells to fill out. Now, from an instructor's perspective, though, what this is showing me as well is that everything with the Tableau dashboard activities, everything is auto-gradable. Everything fills right into my gradebook. So I'm not spending, hours and hours of time manually grading, Tableau or data analytics, data visualization projects. Everything's auto-gradable. Another really neat thing about these Tableau dashboard activities is not only do they help us assess our students' knowledge of those key accounting concepts, they also help us visually convey them. And what I mean by that is let's take a look at Nero's again. And we'll see that Nero's, right, their liabilities and equity bar, that bar height is of the same bar height as assets. And you'll see it for all the other companies as well. But what accounting concept is that visually conveying to our students? Well, it's that assets, right, equals liabilities plus equity. And I've written that up on the board. They've read about it in the book. Now they can visually see it and interact with it. And for some of my visual learners, that's all they need to make it click. So that's really neat. Let me jump a little bit ahead in my course now. So I'm going to jump ahead actually to the end of my class. And this is the financial statement analysis part of my class. And so sometimes I cover this in financial, sometimes in managerial, just kind of depends on how things are going. But it works great for both classes. So if we look at this company, we'll see that they break down their financial information into different regions of the United States. So let's scroll down here and see what we want our students to do. So for requirement 1, we're going to ask our students to compute profit margin for the West region and Southwest region, okay? So students would come up here, profit margin, okay? They come over to the West region, just hovering their cursor over the dashboard, and they'll see, well, we have net sales, net income, average total assets, and current liabilities. So there's some distractor information there. But so if they know profit margin, they'll know they need to take net income of 22,000 divided by net sales of 110,000. And that would give the West region 20%. Okay. Southwest region, okay, they're going to come back up to their dashboard and they'll see they have net income of 17,600 and net sales of 80,000. Divide those two numbers. That'll give them 22%. We can check my work, something you can turn on or off as an instructor. They get a positive green check mark. They're on the right path. Everything's filling right into my grade book. So we're all happy. All right. Another thing I want to point out with these dashboards is when you get to the exercise and mini case level assignments, those next steps kind of, they also include analysis. And what I mean by analysis is I'm not going to go out and grab some intermediate or advanced level analysis to throw at my introductory students. No way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab introductory accounting analysis. So if we look at requirement 2, it asks, in which region examined in part 1 has the company best performed on profit margin? So not only do the students need to know, well, how to compute profit margin, they need to know how to do that ratio. They also need to know, well, hey, a company would prefer a higher profit margin. So if we look at the Southwest region has 22%, West region has 20%. So the Southwest region has the higher profit margin. So the student would come in here, type in Southwest. They can check my work still, okay? Even all the analysis parts are auto-gradable in my course. They fill right into my grade book. So I think you guys are kind of getting the point with these Tableau dashboard activities. And that is that we're still asking our students the same types of accounting questions that we've been asking them for years, right? We're still talking about profit margin, return on assets, the accounting equation. They're the exact same. We just have to teach them the same things. But instead of students going up to a paragraph of information or a table of information, instead, they're going to a Tableau dashboard activity like this and gathering their information. And what that's doing for our introductory students is that it's helping them develop those really key skills in analytics and visualization, more particularly visualization, but all at the introductory accounting level, not advanced or intermediate level, at an introductory level. And also, frankly, it gets them their feet wet with Tableau, which, as we know, is the most popular tool in data visualization right now. Let me jump ahead now to my managerial course, okay? So here's an example now. I'm going to talk about the swapping again. So here's an example of a traditional assignment. Students were given beginning materials. They were given ending materials, and they're given purchases. And we're asking our students to solve for materials used, okay? So for those of us who are teaching managerial accounting, kind of a very classic kind of managerial question. Now what I did, I've swapped this assignment out with the Tableau dashboard activity. And just to be clear, those traditional assignments aren't going anywhere. Okay, I just began swapping them out just in my class. So here in this Tableau dashboard activity, we see that we give students beginning materials, materials purchases, ending materials, and we're asking them to solve for materials used. Okay, the exact same type of managerial questions, but instead of students going to a paragraph or table of information, now they're going to a dashboard to develop those key skills. One last thing I want to say about the Tableau dashboard activities. So if you're one of the hundreds of instructors who have started using Tableau dashboard activities in your class over the last few years, in the past, there was only static versions available. Now there are algorithmic versions available, which means that all your students will get different numbers. So that's really nice. We've been using them in our class, and depending on which title you're using, they could be available now, or they'll be available in January for your spring classes. Okay, so those are the Tableau dashboard activities. Now, if you're somebody who is thinking they want to go that next step with analytics and visualization. If your students, everything's going right in your class, they're really grasping the Tableau dashboard activities, and again, you want to go that next step, we also have applying Tableau projects. And so what an applying Tableau project does is that it gives students a set of data in Excel. They have to upload it into Tableau, build a visual, do some analysis, and answer auto-gradable questions in Connect. So definitely very much a next step. Again, these are applying Tableau projects. And we provide, at least in our class, what we do is we provide the students with an instructional video, walkthrough video of how to do these projects. And of course, we would make these available for you to make available to your students as well. So instead of me just talking about it, let me just show you an example of one of our walkthrough videos.
The program. To load the data file into Tableau, left-click on Microsoft Excel in the blue Connect pane and select the data file name. Then left-click on the orange shaded Sheet 1. This opens a blank worksheet. We start by renaming the worksheet. Double left-click on Sheet 1. On the worksheet, type Gross Profit by Year. Center the title and left-click OK. Let's now build the first display. Left-click and hold Year and drag it from the Tables pane to the column shelf. Displays are built in Tableau by dragging dimensions and measures to columns and rows shelves. Next, right-click Sheet 1 and select Duplicate. This will be useful later in the assignment. Left-click Sheet 1 to return to the first worksheet. For our analysis, we must investigate the company's gross profit. However, gross profit is not shown. We address this by creating a calculated field. Left-click Analysis and select Create Calculated Field. Let's name the calculated field Gross Profit. Next, in the calculated field, type Net Sales minus Cost of Goods Sold and press OK. The calculated field for gross profit is now created. We see that it appears with the other dimensions and measures on the left. Left-click and hold Gross Profit and drag it from the Tables pane to the Rows shelf. This creates a line graph. We see that the line graph does not have labels. To add labels, left-click and hold Gross Profit and drag it from the Tables pane to the label card. Stop here and complete Requirement 1 in Connect. The current display shows gross profit for the company as a whole. As part of our analysis, we want to know how each of the company's 3 regions is performing. To do this, left-click and hold Region and drag it from the Tables pane to the color card. This changes the graph to show gross profit for all 3 regions. Stop here and complete.
Okay, so you can kind of see, right, very much a next step for our students. And before I turn it back over, I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll just answer a question from, I think it was Diane real quick. And she said, which of these activities do you do in class versus assign for homework? And so that's a great question. So we actually, at least in my class, I assign the Tableau dashboard activities only as homework. I don't do them in class. The first semester I did do one in class just to show them how it worked. And then the second semester, I wanted to know if students would just jump right in and grasp what we're doing with the Tableau dashboard activities. And they just grasp it right away. I don't even have to show them it in class anymore. They just hit the ground running. I just assign it in homework, just as I would any other kind of assignment.
All right, terrific. Thank you. What we've done to this point is Jonathan has given you a couple different levels of how to get started. Here's what I've done. I'm at the level 1. So I've swapped out about now 20 to 25% of my traditional assignments. I swapped out in lieu and in favor of these Tableau dashboard activities as shown on this page down here. If you want, you can push the envelope a little bit, go to level 2 and start creating Tableau dashboards from raw data. And we have the programs available for you to get started there. I want to point out something that Jonathan and I did. We asked our students in the spring term and the summer term, so it's over 400 students. we asked them, did the Tableau dashboard assignments help you learn? And we first asked them, did the exams help you learn, the quizzes, just as a baseline? And much that you and I would expect, exams are about 70%, 80% quizzes students identified helping them learn. Again, we know they don't like them, but we know those things help them learn and retain accounting knowledge. Well, what did the dashboards come in at? 90%. That I was hoping for 50 or above, and 90% just knocked my socks off. So that's a terrific endorsement by the students themselves. Okay, I want to ask you a question before we leave this visual component, and that is for your introductory accounting course, what would work for your classes? Would it be A, no Tableau data and projects? Would it be B, I would use the Tableau dashboard activities, or C, I would use the dashboard activities and the applying Tableau projects? If you'd answer A, B, or C for that, I'm just curious how we all sort of land on that dimension. So about 65%, wow, way to go. We have a powerful group here. 65%, about 30% here, and a few people down here at this level. So great, and that's going to depend upon your own students, your constituents, what's demanded, and so on. So that's great information for us. Video innovation. Now, we've gone through the textual innovations in our classroom. We've gone through the visual, and I want to just briefly give you a sense of what we've done for the video in our classroom. So again, we look to learning science to help us, all kinds of data and results, very interesting. A couple big points is long-term learning retention is enhanced through videos, amazing. We're 75% more likely to watch videos versus read. And a big one, if you have a video in your classroom, we need to ask questions after the video to reinforce the learning. So what we came up with was 3 different levels. We came up with concept overview videos, or COV for short. We came up with NTK, we know what those are. Those are those demonstration videos, and hint videos, which are in the end of chapter assignment materials that we use in our classroom. And we'll talk about, give you a little example of each, but without jumping to the Connect source for this. First of all, the concept overview videos, on purpose, we've used learning science. They tell us they have to be short. This one here happens to be 2.5 minutes in length. You'll notice also, remember that result from learning science? Need to ask a question. There's a knowledge check at the end of every one of these. And you can choose to assign points or not to them. I assign about 5% of my course grade to these knowledge checks at the end of the COVs. In terms of the need to know demonstration videos, again, they're at the end of each block. Here's one here. Again, you'll see this one's a little over 2 minutes. They range from about 1 to 5 minutes in length, again, following learning science. We also have them at the end of the chapter for comprehensive purposes. When we assign problems to our students, these are oftentimes useful. Now, by definition, these are, of course, this one here is 12 minutes in length, which is to be expected. These are they're more like problems, and they just take up much more time to get through. We also have these hints, and those hints are unique to individual assignments in my classroom. And therefore, like the exercises and the brief exercises, which we call quick studies, and they're available for a majority of those. And you and I are in control of whether or not we want to make them available. Certainly when it comes to tests and quizzes, I don't make them available, obviously. But usually when I first open a chapter, I'll usually make them available to get them over that first hump. Question here, just for poll question, to get a sense of the videos, would these concept overview, the need to know demonstrations, and the hint videos, would it help your students learn and retain information? If yes, if you'd click A, if no, if you'd click B. Just curious where you're sitting on the issues of video in your classroom and learning right now. Wow, 100%. Okay, terrific. 100% in videos. Last, one of our last big items, integrated Excel. So this is important. This integration is really important. In our classroom, we know Excel is used in practice. We know it's important. We know it keeps adding to the services that are available, but now we have it integrated. So you remember that we come up with a wish list, and we came up with a wish list here. You notice we have no add-on project, but importantly, no Excel training required, and even more important, no added software. If you're like me, that conjures up a lot of bad nightmares. And then if it's auto-gradable. Well, we've actually achieved that. So we have problems like this. This one is taken from our job order costing, learning how costs flow through a manufacturing entity. And we said something like this could readily or more easily be solved in Excel. So we've created over here an Excel problem. We call them Excel exercises. And there's no software required. It's assimilated right into Connect. And Jonathan will show us an example right now of how those exercise followed by some projects that we've written too. So Jonathan?
Yeah, great.
You're in control.
Yeah, I'm going to jump again right back into my Connect class. And similar to how I was demonstrating how we talked about swapping out traditional assignments with Tableau dashboard activities, I've started doing the same thing with integrated Excel assignments. And so let me show you what I'm talking about. So again, here's an example of a traditional assignment in Connect. And in this one here, students have a table built in Connect. They have some missing amounts here. And using their knowledge of income statement relations, they have to fill in these missing amounts in Connect. Now, what I've taken this assignment out, just at least in my class, it's not going away from Connect, out of my class. I've swapped it with the exact same assignment, but now built in integrated Excel. So how does integrated Excel work? Well, integrated Excel is live Excel running right in our web browsers. I'm running a Mac. My students run PCs, Chromebooks, and integrated Excel runs right in our web browsers. It looks, functions the exact same way across all devices, regardless, again, if you're using Mac, PC, it just works. You don't need an extra subscription, any kind of special hardware to run these things. It's just seamless. So I'm not acting as tech support for my students. It just, if you assign it in Connect, it'll automatically pop up and run in your student's browser. So let me show you how these integrated Excel, let's just work through one of these assignments. So if you remember, this is the same exact assignment that was in Connect and now built in integrated Excel in Connect. So if we want to solve for sales, okay, it looks like we have net sales and we have to back in by adding in returns and allowances and add back in discounts. Okay, so I got a sales number there. Looks like I also need cost of goods sold. So for cost of goods sold, that's the difference between net sales and gross profit. Okay, so I'm already done with column 1. Now, something that's really neat and something I haven't seen in any other Excel tool I've used in my class over the last few years, and that's check my work. So check my work, it'll give students a positive green check mark if they're on the right path. So we see both of these, they're alerting our students that we're on the right path. We can turn that on or off as an instructor. And it's also letting our students know that the answer is not yet complete. Okay, because I still have a few more cells to fill in here. Okay. Now, another really neat thing about integrated Excel, again, this is something I haven't seen, is that it also will recognize many different formulas as a correct answer for any given cell. So I don't know if you guys have used Excel solutions in the past where only like one formula would be accepted as correct. But for those of us who use Excel, we know there's often many different ways to solve for any given value. So here we have sales. Instead of adding up each of these cells individually, what I could have did instead is use a sum function. So I type in sum, highlight all 3 of those cells, close my parentheses. I get the same number. And just to prove it, check my work. I get a green check mark. So it graded as correct. Also, another key thing about this from an instructor's perspective is that all of the integrated Excel assignments are auto-gradable and fill right into my gradebook and Connect. So I don't spend hours and hours of time anymore manually grading Excel spreadsheets. That's done with. Okay, everything's auto-graded. That was huge for me. Let me jump out of here, save, and let's take a look at another one. Okay, let me jump ahead a little bit in my class. So before I used to have this question on aging of receivables. So you see, we got a bunch of information here. They come down here and connect in this table, do some tedious calculations, right? Get their estimate and then do their journal entry. Now we're going to have the same question, but again, in integrated Excel. So let's open that up. And while this is loading, let me just give you a little bit of background on how this has worked in my class. So in my class, I have students who are 18 years old. They're great with an iPad, but they've never really used Excel before. And so integrated Excel offers a fantastic solution and way for my students, those basic Excel users, to get their feet wet with Excel. It's a great experience because they don't have to worry about, what version of Excel do I have? Do I have a subscription to 365? Do I have the right kind of hardware? None of those problems exist with integrated Excel. So it ends up being a great experience. Now for my advanced users, they love integrated Excel. So I have some students who are been in industry for 10, 15 years, and they've got a lot of skills in Excel, probably more than I do even. And they come in and they love integrated Excel because now they can do their homework so much more efficiently and effectively using all those Excel tools. So let me just show you a little bit how they would do this assignment. So they would start by using a bunch of cell references, start filling out their table, and they go through it. And because some of their normal Connect assignments are now built out in integrated Excel, they start setting up formulas and functions to do their homework so much more efficiently and effectively. So let me show you what they would do here. So now that they have all their data in there, they would set up just a simple formula for each of these categories. So for not yet due, they would take that cell, the 80,000 cell, times it by 1%, that cell. So they'd set up their formula, get that number for that row. Then they would drag their formula down to apply that same formula to these next 4 rows. And they're doing their accounting homework so much more efficiently. Next, they would come down here, use a simple sum function. Again, there's no complex formulas or functions going on here. Now they have their estimated balance for the allowance for doubtful accounts, but they still have to know their accounting, right? They still have to know how to set up these equations, how to get their estimate. And of course, they still also have to know that this is computing a credit balance, right? A debit balance. An allowance doesn't add to your accounts receivable net. It would subtract from it. Now we can also use the check my work feature, and they get a bunch of positive green check marks. Now, another control that you have as an instructor is to choose whether or not to require students to use a formula. Now, I do require my students to use a formula just because otherwise they're going to grab their calculator, right, and just do it the old-fashioned way. So I do require it, but that's something I could see going both ways there. I think just grading on values could be appropriate for some classes as well. So let me save out of this and just show you a couple more. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here again. So here we were on receivables. Now let's get to the debt chapter. Here we have an installment note amortization table. Okay, you can see, especially if we had even more years here, how we could set up different formulas and start dragging those formulas down to fill out this table. Could be done so much more efficiently and effectively. Now I assign this again, the same assignment, but in integrated Excel. And then of course, jumping ahead to my managerial course, right? If we're covering allocation of expenses to different departments and things like that, right? There's a lot of tedious calculations. Sometimes those tables are getting really big. Now I take this assignment out and I do the same assignment, but in integrated Excel. So if you're looking for a really easy, efficient way to integrate Excel in your class, I would jump right in with integrated Excel. I think that's a great solution. Now, if you feel though you want to go the next step with your course, you want to take your students, maybe some of your students are already advanced Excel users. Maybe your course is just going really well. The material's really clicking for your students and you want to go that next level. Maybe even add in a little bit of analytics to your Excel, have them learn some new formulas and functions they wouldn't otherwise know. We also have put together integrated Excel projects, okay? And so these are a few things we've been using in our classes. And so we've created a walkthrough video for our students. And of course, if you would assign these in your class, we would make this video available to you as well, kind of walking through the students through this project, of course, using different companies, different numbers, a little bit different cells as well, so they can't just copy and paste anything. And instead of just talking about it, let me just show you the video.
Requirement 3A asks us to compute average total assets for each company. We will use the average function in cell D20. The average function determines the average value for the cells to which the function is applied. We want the average of the total assets for the current year and the prior year. To do this, we enter equal average and then press the Tab key. We then highlight the cells to which the function will be applied, in this case cells B20 and C20. We then close the parentheses and press Enter. This will show the average value. At this point, we could enter this formula individually for each company. However, there is a faster way. Take the cursor, click on cell D20, and hover over the bottom right-hand corner until the black Fill Data cross symbol appears. Then click on that corner and drag the formula down to the cells we wish to apply the formula to. We see how much easier this is when we apply the same formula to many cells.
So you can see we're kind of taking that next step if you want to do that 209 rows of
Requirements
data.
3B and 3C ask us to find the largest and lowest average total assets respectively. As in requirements 1 and 2, we use the max function and min function to determine these values.
All right, so then we'll go through and use a few different kind of more analysis functions and formulas students otherwise wouldn't know. But with that, I'm going to turn it back over.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So Jonathan showed us live Excel. So here you have the same sort of options that we had for Tableau. Level 1, I'd call this is swapping the integrated Excel for our current assignments. I've done that this term for a handful to see how they work, and they've worked really smoothly. So I'm really positive towards this. I haven't done this. Jonathan's played around with the integrated Excel projects, but that would be pushing the next level. Quick poll question. For your introductory accounting courses, what integrated Excel resources would work for you? And you have 3 options here. Number 1, no integrated Excel in your class. That's introductory accounting, financial or managerial. B, integrated Excel exercises that Jonathan showed you. Or C, integrated Excel exercises and integrated Excel projects. Which ones work for you? A, B, or C for your introductory classes? So we have about a split between B, between the integrated Excel exercise. This is a very innovative group today. Excellent. Okay, so we've dealt with the textual, the visual, the video, and the integrated Excel. The last item I have, talking about a couple other innovations we've done in the classroom. One is the critical thinking analysis. So we have some tools we have at each chapter. This one I'm showing you is accounts receivable turnover. We have Visa and MasterCard being illustrated, but some of us have want a little more critical thinking, evaluation, decision-making. So this sort of gets you to that level. And there's assignments that are all in Connect, all auto-gradable at the end of the chapter. Another thing that's occurred the last few years is this question about ethics and companies that are going after our students like Chegg. And what we've done is we've created a Connect-only test bank to deal with some of this. So let me jump right over there. In this Connect-only test bank, because again, it's motivated by exam integrity. It's Connect-only, meaning it's all digital, right? They can't copy it. They can't send it off to someone. It's nearly 100% randomized numbers, algorithmic, if you will. It's stripped of almost all searchable strings. For example, there's no company name, so they can't search by that. So it makes it harder for them to search for those solutions. And we've added about 1,000 of them. A lot of them are brief and short exercises, about 900 of those. And we've also introduced the importance of visuals, as we talked about. So we have about 150 to 200 visual test bank questions too, first time ever. And this will all be coming on in January. We've also had accounting cycle review, but Jonathan, you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, you bet. So we put together an accounting cycle review. And the reason why we put together a review is our students, if they don't get the accounting cycle, those first, 3 or 4 chapters of our text, they just really tend to struggle through the rest of our class. And a lot of times they won't even make it to a next accounting course. So what we did is we put together a set of videos, YouTube style videos, and reinforcement exercises to help students with the accounting cycle. So let me play one of those YouTube style videos for you now.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Wild. In this video, we cover how to record adjusting entries for prepaid expenses and unearned revenues. The reason we do adjusting entries is because we use something called accrual accounting, which means we record revenues when services and products are delivered and record expenses when incurred. I know. It's a cruel world. This is different from cash basis accounting, where we just record transactions when cash is received or paid. Let's run through some examples using accrual accounting. So a company purchases a 12-month insurance policy on December 1st by prepaying $1,200 cash. To record this entry, we debit prepaid insurance for $1,200 and credit cash for $1,200. We debit prepaid insurance to increase that prepaid asset. Now, let's fast forward to the end of the accounting period, December 31st. And now this is where the accrual accounting comes in. So by December 31st, 1 month of our 12-month insurance policy has expired. Therefore, we need to record the expense of 1 month of insurance. To do this, we take the $1,200 cost and multiply it by 1 over 12 months. This gives us insurance expense of $100.
Okay, so I think you guys kind of get the point, trying to add some engagement, some excitement, even some, I don't know if those were even funny jokes in there, but always trying to engage the student to help reinforce the accounting cycle. Now, so we have put together 6 of those videos, again, YouTube style videos, and we also have a reinforcement exercise with each of those videos. So for the first one, we cover all the whole accounting cycle. So we start off with analyzing transactions using the accounting equation. We have a YouTube style video and then a reinforcement exercise with transactions they have to analyze using the accounting equation. We'll keep moving on then. Then we go on to prepare and posting journal entries. So we have a video with that. Then they come down here. They have some transactions. They have to prepare the journal entries and post them. Then jumping ahead, here we have adjusting entries. We split that into 2 different videos, 2 different exercises because it's such a tough topic. So they come down here, do some adjusting entries. Next video also covers adjusting entries, YouTube style video, reinforcement exercise, all based on learning science. Then we have preparing financial statements from an adjusted trial balance, do exactly that below. And then we prepare closing entries. And of course, we have a video on that. Journal entries. Now at the end, we have a comprehensive problem that covers all the steps in the accounting cycle. So there's about 15 different transactions and adjustments. They do each of those transactions and adjustments, which then automatically fills into their general ledger, which they use to prepare their trial balance, then their income statement, all the way through to the balance sheet, do their closing entries, and then their post-closing trial balance. That's kind of an optional, kind of comprehensive cap to the accounting cycle review. With that, I'll turn it back over.
Terrific. I'm going to bring up the final notes for us. All right. So last question. For your introductory accounting course, do you believe your students would benefit from the accounting cycle review and the video resources that accompany that? If yes, if you'd click A, if no, if you'd click B, just to get a sense of whether you'd use something like this for your class, either as a review or a comprehensive. All right. Thrilled. Yes, 100%. Terrific. Okay. Walk away with our takeaways. I can't help myself. Textual changes, visual changes, video, integrated Excel, very exciting. And then the more with the test bank, critical thinking and accounting cycle review. Last item, if you want to reach out to us, feel free. This QR code here will get you to our LinkedIn. Be happy to link in with you. You can connect that way, or you can email us or give us a phone call. At this point, we can open it up to any final questions in the last couple of minutes that we have available. So Lindsay, it's back to you.
Great. Looks like we have a few questions, but we will capture this chat and get back to you if we haven't been able to answer your questions. Thank you so much for attending today. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks everyone.